Okay, I'm going to have one last question before we open it up to the audience. What difficulties have you encountered living as an international woman in the United States? And what values that you once held or hold have changed since you've been exposed to American values? Frida?
I think so far I haven't had any hard difficulty as a female in particular. The only difficulty is just being in a new society, a new culture, a new environment, far away from the family. But as being a female, where I grew up, I was kind of in a town, so I knew mostly, I lived the same way as I live here. But I don't think I had any issue adapting to the culture, to the environment.
I agree with Rita. I haven't encountered any difficulties. It's adjusting to life over here. Henderson was very good to me. I had a nice international population over here that helped each other, and I'm sure they continue to do so over here. I do miss home. I miss the smell, even though I've been completely morose about my country. There are still really good things about it, and I do, honor my heritage and my traditions, and whatever good or bad that comes with it. India is still my home, and I pretty much just take the best of both worlds and in my lifestyle. Thank you.
The same is with me as well, and basically because as I was brought up in the capital city, the environment was basically the same as it is right here, and I would say in terms of growing as a person, then you would see changes that are positive, of course, of coming out of your shell and speaking in front of such a big audience, and I would never be able to do that back home. So that is one of the major changes, but not in terms of values or anything, but it's just growing and adapting the culture and the environment. That is basically what I'm talking about.
Yes.
My turn?
Yes, ma'am.
Living in United States 21 years, I grew up so much. Back home, when I was living as an elite life, I did not know how to iron my clothes. I did not know how to be a person, what I am now. And when I came to United States, for my husband's scholarship, I said, do I have to cook and clean and wash and do all this? And I cried 2 years, every single day. I was not used to cooking back home because we had servants, or my mom used to cook. When I got married, my in-laws had servants, and they used to do it. No joke. I used to cry every single day, 2 years. What I am now, I could never be living in Pakistan. I grew up so much. I'm much more stronger human being than I used to be. I'm more tolerant towards people. So when I go back home, I tell them, hey, get up. I mean, you can cook your own food, I'm telling them. And they say, no, we have people who will do things for us. So it's home now. United States is a home now. The only thing, I lived in Washington, D.C. My family lives in New York, lived in Wisconsin for 8 years. In the South, I think people are so innocent. They do not have exposure for international community. It's not your fault. There's not much flux. People don't come here, they don't leave. People who have been living here 30 years has been living here. Your school teacher, by just looking at them, oh my God, he was my first grade school teacher. So international community is not much in Arkadelphia, or as a matter of fact in the South. So you being tolerant towards us, if you have any concerns, please do not get your information on ABC and Fox and CNN.
And Wikipedia.
Sorry?
And Wikipedia.
And Wikipedia. Trust me, we are not bad people. We live the way you live here. Our families, husband and wife working back home, bringing home money, their schools are going, kids are going to school. I think it is the media that portrays wrong information about Rwanda. One time, I was, a couple of years ago, I was managing here in Arkadelphia, one of the fine jewelry store. And one of the clients asked me, he says, do you have a radio in Pakistan? And I looked at his face and I said, is he serious? No, in my heart I thought, is he serious? And I said, yes, sir. Oh, so you don't have cars, so you go on camels? And that's when I said, yes, sir, we don't have cars, we have camels. And he says, really? I said, yes. And he says, so you give your girls for the goats. I don't know where he gets an idea that when you get married, you exchange a woman with a goat. And I said, yes, sir, that's what we do. So in my heart, I said, oh my God, they don't know where I come from. And I felt so sad for him that living in a Gurdon or Hope, which is a small town, never had any exposure, does not have a satellite to have an international
Look
TV.
at you is very exotic, that's why.
Or Lauren, they'll ask, where did you learn the English? Do you speak English?
No, I got
We have
that.
American schools back home.
I think a lot of this misconception goes with people only looking at one part of the information. Trying to look, for example, Rwanda and only taking about one piece of information about the full country, about where there's different features of the culture, different people, different regions, which is the same way to different societies. So I think many people, the only way to get real information about different countries, about other cultures, and I think on the internet you could find pretty much everything. So if you need to know anything about the culture, ask the people. I think there's a lot more international students, international people coming from other countries here in the USA. You could read online, you could pretty much saw all of those misconceptions, all those different ideas, which are, not to say they're wrong, but they're not the only ideas about those other countries. So to have the original idea of what other cultures are about.
Okay, so now we'll go ahead and open up the floor to questions, specific questions.
I'm so sorry. I do not want to butcher any of y'all's names, so I'm just going to call you Miss Lauren.
Just point out.
The one in the middle. You said that people will get, oh my goodness, I cannot think of the word right now. They have 3 kids, and then the women will stop. Sterilize, thank you.
Female sterilization.
Yes. If they don't have a boy with those 3 children, will they continue until they have a boy?
Yes, definitely. Until they'll stop, or they're lucky to have 2 boys, and then they'll stop. But no, they usually have a family before they get sterilized in India. Even with when the government promotes family planning, it's usually after you've had a few kids, because big families are a prize in India. You have to have big families. Like, I come from a family with just 2 girls, and when I was born, I'm the second child. I have an older sister, and when I was born, they didn't tell my mom what I was until her placenta came out and until she had fully calmed down before they could tell her she has another girl. Even my mom didn't care, but it's just the culture that if you do have a second, especially if it's another girl, they usually wait till the mother is completely stable before they break the news to her.
Any other questions?
Anik, you spoke briefly about kind of the influence that the media has on the way Americans and other people abroad kind of see and perceive your culture. When you see mass media and social media portray not only your country but your culture in a way that it isn't, how does that make you feel? And that's for all of you, not just you.
Dear, it really hurts. when I see CNN, Fox, they show the area of Pakistan that I sometimes see, oh my God, where is this area? I don't even know. And the way they portray, I think it's after September 11th happened, these are a handful of men, very few people who are exploiting the religion, Islam. I sometimes tell people, I said, whatever happened, what Hitler did to Jewish people, Bible does not preach that. Christ does not preach that. Likewise, what Taliban has been doing or is doing, it's not Islam. I've been born and raised. The Quran, as a matter of fact, it will be a news to you. Quran says, unless or until we believe in Moses, Christ, we are not considered as Muslim. And Judaism, Christianity, Islam's are religion of Abraham. They all preach the same thing. If Bible say go kill people, then Quran does say go kill people. Bible does not say go kill people.
Well, so many people see religious extremists and want to hold them accountable and make it about the religion. You have religious extremists in any faith. We've all seen it, here and abroad. So.
Exactly, dear. They say in the name of Allah and in the name of God, let's kill people. That's when I keep on repeating, we have to train these men. You will never see a woman holding and saying, oh, in the name of Allah, in the name of God, let's kill the American people. Women don't, they are too busy sacrificing their life, daily life, you know. These are the men. So we need to train them. I don't know how we can do that. Do we need another discussion about that? How men needs to sit here, really. They need to come and share with us, hey, you know, we are going to make these changes, you know. So it's a very good question. So please do not believe in media. Please, I beg you, do not believe on TV. And American people are so innocent. What their government show them, they do believe it. They do believe it. What they show on TV about other country, they believe it. And in Pakistan, we have a lot of American people living there for 20, 30, 35 years. Recently, I met another woman. Her name is Mary. She came from California. And she went from California 30 years ago to Pakistan to learn classical music. We excel in classical music back home. And she was crying and talking to one of my husband's cousin. He's the director of Log Virsa. And she was crying and begging that please extend my visa. I need to stay in this country. And I said, Mary, are you stupid? You know, go back home. What are you doing? I mean, Americans are considered as, you know, anybody can kill you. So, and she says, no, this is home for me. This is my home. You guys are my people. Like I think you guys are my people. You know, this is home for me. So, you know, if we are more tolerant and not listen to the government, we will be more peaceful, more loving. We need to love people. We started loving things.
It's very true. Thank you.
Anybody have anything to add to that? It was addressed to everybody. So. Is that good? Okay.
Exactly what she says. I mean, even if whatever you hear on TV, just do your research and just don't blatantly accept whatever is said on TV or even from movies like Slumdog Millionaire about India. That is not India. That is a small portion of India, but just a very small portion of India.
Yeah, I mean, people are so innocent. One time somebody asked me, oh, you are Muslim, so you must be cousin of Osama bin Laden. I said, oh my goodness, I'm from Pakistan. I mean, it's just, I mean, ignorance, you know, it's just ignorance.
Yeah, people do ask me why I don't cover my head. We don't cover our heads in India. We do when we go to the temples, and even the Christians do it when they go to church in India. If you go to any Catholic church in India, all the women cover their heads. It's just tradition, but we don't do it on a daily basis.
Okay.
I know that Lauren, I was wondering about blatant racism here on our campus. If you had ever experienced anything like that, I know that with, not necessarily just to Lauren, I was using you as an example because at one point, not the best place to take kids maybe, but they took my kids to the fair, and they said it was a very strange experience to have these really, really white kids, and they were walking around loving on them. So, and people were questioning that relationship. Have you ever had any kind of blatant reaction on campus?
Not on Henderson campus. Everyone was very accepting. I mean, they wanted to know more about you. They see you as, the word that I get used most is, you're so exotic. I want to know more about you. And I was like, you're exotic to me too. But as Chad was saying one day, yes, my husband and I took his kids, and his kids are beautiful, blonde hair, blue-eyed babies, and we love them very much. And we took them to the county fair, and I don't know whether you've ever been to Arkadelphia County Fair, but people come with their prize pigs, and it was an eye-opener for me. But we got a lot of stares, and his kids are very loving, and they love to, love on us and kiss us, and, we're very close to his family. And we got a lot of stares, especially from the women, about how is this possible? Like, how do two brown people, But I never see that. Like, even if I take his daughter out, and she's very close to me, and if I take his daughter out, people always stare and give me the second look, and it's like, that something's wrong with this picture. But no one ever does that when you see a white couple with an adopted baby from the Far East. Never. No one says anything. Everyone doesn't even want to say, oh, is that an adopted baby? But they are very quick to tell me that, oh, is this your child? I'm like, yes. Yes, she is. I did have a redhead, blue-eyed daughter. Well, she's like my daughter. But no, on Henderson campus, no. Never. In Arkadelphia, I just get a lot of, as Auntie G said, very innocent questions, and just about my culture, and what kind of music I'll listen to, and whether I had TV at home, and that was about it. It was more getting to know where I'm from and who I am, more than being, I wouldn't put that as racist. I would put that just as being a little ignorant about my culture. Thanks, Chad.
Okay. How big of a part does religion play in the female oppression? As in, was the oppression of women rooted in religion, or was it rooted in political topics or anything else like that? Is it, is religion the major reason why women are oppressed?
Well, in India, yes. It started with, during the Vedic times, with the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, which are the two biggest classical epics in India. And even though they were epics, they're still considered very religious texts in my culture. And from that stemmed the laws of Manu. And most of the laws told us about how we should conduct ourselves on a daily basis, and most of these laws were adapted from these epics. So yes, I would say it's a trickle-down effect on how women should behave in our country did come originally from religious texts, and it's more like dharma, what a duty of an ideal wife is, and most of the ideal wives that women should copy came from religious text. So yes, there is religion does play a huge part on women's oppression in India. But it is changing. People are, there's a lot more awareness about how women should behave, and just rethinking on how we should interpret the text more to the 21st century, and not to 300 BC. Thanks.
I would like to add to Lauren's, because my culture follows the Hindu tradition as well, and women, basically, like, the goddesses are basically depicted as they're the exalted of, let's say, fertility. They're like figures of fertility, and and after that they started following the tradition that they're just the machines of reproductive figures, they're just producing children. That's what they're for. So basically, I think from the Hindu tradition, that was basically how it started, and it entered into the society as being females, as just being machines of reproduction.
A woman like
Frida.
A woman like even though they are portrayed as goddesses and these beautiful beings of fertility, they are seen as a whole only when they are seen with a male counterpart, if that makes sense. Like they need to be with the male counterpart, and then when they have a son, that's when their status gets uplifted, even in the text, even in the old text and the classical text.
I won't say that the way the women have to behave in my culture have to do anything with religion, because most of Rwandese are Christians, and another big part is Muslims, which we don't have much of those traditional religions, but it has to do more with the culture itself, how women were supposed to behave in that ancient culture, how they were only viewed as have to be submissive all the times in all aspects of life. They were treated as useless, if I can say, in the sense that the only thing they could do, as Lauren said, if a man is not there, a woman can't do anything. That's why even in school, women were treated as like, oh, a girl can do science, they were treated as they can't do anything, which is hard, so I don't think it has to do anything with religion, but more of how the culture or the ancient tradition of Rwandese people used to view women.
Can you hear me now? Would each of you tell us one female person in your country or culture that is looked at as a hero for other women in your country, and why?
I would name one person. Well, there are many women back home. I would name Anik's mother, Banu Kutsia. You guys can Google it. I will spell that name for you. The reason she got married, kind of a love marriage, which was like a taboo at that time, 50, 60 years ago. The way she sacrificed, I saw her every single day dying and then being alive this next morning, and then dying, and then the amount of duty she gave to the household was, when I see her, it's speechless. The way she dressed up, she's such a kind person and everybody knows her in Pakistan. You just name and they'll say, oh my God. And she wrote many novels, and one of the, is it a novel or a novel? It's known as Raja Gid, which is in a text of High Commission test, CSS. And it's considered as in a text. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful lady. But I have many, many other women. Most of the rural areas, women, hats off to them, the way they sacrifice. But I think so, those women you cannot find. My maternal grandmother, who had 9 children, who used to sit in the kitchen looking through the gate, each and every child will come and have a hot meal. She'll just sit there on a small stool in front of the stove, and so that she could give. I mean, there are many names, but you cannot Google those people. Because she's a well-known person, you can Google her and find her. So easy.
My female figure, I think the role model is Anuradha Koirala. She's a social activist and a founder of a non-profit organization in Nepal called Mighty Nepal, which is dedicated to saving, like dedicated to housing the victims of sex trafficking in Nepal, in the Indo-Nepal border. And what Mighty Nepal does is that it is a refuge for all these victims of sex trafficking, and they basically provide the skills needed in order for them to stand up on their own feet and do something in the community before they go back home or be accepted in the family again.
I think one of the huge role models, a person that gets left out of Indian thought when it comes to women, is this lady called Phulan Devi. She was known as the Bandit Queen in India, and she was born in 1963. She got married when she was, she actually got sold and raped in her house when she was 11. She got sold to a man when she was 11. She ran away from her husband's house, came back to her father's house, and started a lot. And over there, she got actually gang raped, and this is a true story. She got gang raped by a policeman and the village elders. She went and lived in, she went in seclusion. She formed this gang, this bandit gang, where she took revenge on all the women, all the men that raped her, and castrated them, and beheaded some of them. She was finally caught in 1983. Went to jail for 11 years and had this huge transformation as to how she could use this power as a woman to actually influence other women, not by violence, but she completely changed herself and got into she was actually elected into one of the parliament seats for the Untouchables, which was a lower caste, and did a lot for women's reformment in India. And to me, she is a hero, not with the castration part, but just a hero that she actually, took something bad that happened to her. She was illiterate also, and made it up to the government and did a lot of social reform, women reform in India. She was assassinated in 2001 by a man who was seeking revenge, and we will miss her. But within that time, she did a lot for women and gave a woman's voice in parliament, which was desperately needed. Thank you. Phulan Devi, Google her, not Wikipedia.
I would say I have a long list of female figures from my country who I look up to as my role models. Especially I look at those who have been, most of them are now in politics, but they have managed to pass through those hard conditions and being able to go to school, no matter what the society thought about girls being able to go to school, but who are nowadays empowering all young women to go to school. The one I can name, I really look up to our First Lady. She does a lot of supporting girls, especially those who are in rural areas, who don't have access to schools, who are left out by their parents who still have those old traditions and cultures of just keeping them at home and providing for them the needs they need to go to school. She's also sponsoring many programs, only for women, to also look for those women who are doing good, especially in school, to give them just a small kind of award every time there's a girl who does such good thing, so at least it can encourage them to keep going. I think this one I can name, and so many more who are doing great things to help to promote the girls in my country.
And I also wanted to add about my female figure was that Anuradha Koirala, she was honored as the CNN Hero of the Year in 2010 and 2011, and that was one of the most important things what I wanted to mention, but it's completely slipped out of my head, so I wanted to mention that.
Do you have a question? Right here. Where? Oh, okay.
Hello. I've heard that there's this sort of belief that the West is sort of interfering with and destabilizing traditions, and that they should sort of back off and just leave other cultures alone, that we can't really improve them. We should just hands off, let them do what they want. I was just wondering what you thought about that.
Well, America hasn't actually come into India and tried to reform anything. So I really don't have an answer for that, but my thoughts about America going and invading other countries, that's a wholly different, answer that I have, which I'm not going to get into right now. But no, I don't think America has had any influence on changing tradition or culture in India. The British did when they were ruling us, but America, no. Anybody? I hope I answered your question the best I could.
Oh, it's on? Okay. You mentioned the caste system earlier. How much has it changed over the years?
It's slowly changing. There is a huge prevalent caste system in India, which are 4 castes, which is the Brahmins, the priests, the Kshatriyas, which is the warrior family, then the Vaishnavas, which are the merchants, and then the low caste, the Shudras, and then the untouchables, which is one of the castes. And there's a lot of reservations for people getting into school. Like whenever I fill out an application, I had to mark off what caste I was, and if I did fall under the lower caste, I got a lot of monetary benefits to go to college and schools. There are a lot of government incentives now for intercaste marriages. Like if you marry within 2 castes getting married, 2 different castes, they give you like a monetary incentive. So it is. You can see it in a lot of the villages and, again, rural areas in India, but not so much in the cities where I'm from. But people still ask you what caste you are from.
Okay, my question is specifically for the Hindu and Muslim religions. Back to arranged marriages. Are the women legally and religiously allowed to obtain a divorce? Or is that just a male thing?
Yes, in Islam, women will have the right, it's called not the divorce, but the khula, and a woman can be separated, but there has to be a legitimate reason. Likewise, when men give a divorce, there has to be a reason why the men. Our government, they give you a reconciliation period. First 3 months, the couple will be invited to the court, they both will go, and the judge will say, hey, are you ready to, be together? And they'll say, no, we're not. Then they'll go home, then there will be another 3 months period, then there's another 3 months period. So the state gives you 9 months before you finalize the divorce. And yes, the women and men both have.
Women can get divorced in India. It's not as, Kazalanti was saying, it's not seen as often because it's your duty as a woman just to stay with your husband. You are bound, it's a sacred bond that you have with your husband, and it's very hard to break. Women, yes, there are a lot of I come from a single parent home, and there is a lot of single parents in India right now, even though it's, they are being recognized right now. They do discourage it a whole lot because you have to go back to your parents' home, and there are cases where your own family doesn't want you back. But so you really have no place to go. But I mean, right now in the cities, there's a lot of single moms. There are a lot of unwed mothers, which was never seen when I was growing up in India, or even when I was really small. When my mom was growing up, there wasn't. It was unheard of, or even coming from a single parent home, unless you were, your husband had died and you were a widow. But usually you'd get remarried. But yeah, women can, going back to your question, they can get divorced, definitely, with a very good reason.
Are there any other questions? We have a little bit of time left. We can get a couple more questions in.
Guys, please ask.
Okay.
Hello. I was wondering, it seems that Western women, y'all seem to want to gain the rights that they have. Are there anything that you think Western women can learn from Eastern women? Like as far as ideals or maybe something about strength they can learn from maybe your culture of women?
Very good question. Western women are very good. I mean, I see them as my colleagues and, you know, as my clients. I think the Western tradition is very much for me. Everything has to be my way. Versus in Eastern culture, it's always for my family or for my parents. So in Eastern culture, there's a lot of sacrifices you made. When I was talking about Anik's mom, it was emotionally dying and then being alive because it's the ownership you have towards your family, for your children, for your parents. So in a Western world, half centuries ago, you will see poor and non-poor kids living together, you know, the parents with two parents. Now you see mostly single parents. The reason it's me, you know, I come first, I can't get along with my husband, oh, I need a divorce, you know, I need my peace in my mind. So I think that's where most of the problems coming from. So otherwise, Western women are wonderful, you know, they're very courageous, they have a lot of strength and emotionally and hardworking and everything. I think sacrifice is one thing that's missing in Western world. People do not wish to sacrifice for others, even if it's for the time. You know, it's my time. Oh, I have to go. You know, 5 minutes, I gave you 5 minutes, I have to go. So we need to love each other. We need to love people. We started loving things a lot, you know. So you go.
Well, I think there's a lot we can learn about each other, of course, but especially when these women, about hard working. I know women here, they work, but the condition of working are very different.
Yes.
So if you go, especially like in the village, you see a woman working in the morning, she has to do everything. She has to wake up, take care of the children first, she has to go in the field to look for what they're going to eat. She's not going to go to Walmart, she doesn't have money to get what they eat, she has to grow it. To get water, she has to walk like miles to go get that water. They don't have electricity, so to cook, she has to go to look for firewood. So there's a lot of hard working, a lot of patience involved in that, which is there's something I think women here, they can learn just to be patient in all the things they do, I think.
Complaints, I think it's a lot of complaining in the Western world, you know. There's a small issue on a pimple and the girl will freak out, a 19-year-old, oh my God, there's a big pimple on my face, I have to do something. And on the other hand, you know, women are being treated so bad. So I think complaints are too much. Oh, my husband did this, he shouldn't be doing this, you know, oh, I'm so tired of this. I mean, it's complaints, a lot of complaints I hear personally. In the Western world?
I'd say that taking things for granted is one of the things that people really need to work on, because most of like when I was growing up, we did not have resources to electricity. We still have like around 10 hours of electricity, load shedding back home, and imagine like living half of your day in darkness, and here having 24 access, and if like the library computer doesn't work, then people freak out, you know. It's like the simple things that we need to work on, that we should not take things for granted, because that's what I basically think.
Definitely, I agree with Suchi. We did also have a lot of load shedding in India, where you know, we would go half the day without electricity, and it's hard. It's a hot climate out there, and yep, it's very difficult. And over here, you just have, you know, even in my house, it's very difficult to even get the internet working in India. It's my mom has to, like when we Skype, I mean, she has to give me a certain specific time and day where, you know, she can get online to actually talk to me, or if she has electricity, so she can talk to me. But yeah, a lot of The difference that I see over here when I first came over here is the culture between teachers and students. Where I come from, there is a huge respect. You put a teacher on a pedestal. He is God in the classroom, and you are scared of him. He walks in, and you're feet down, hands on the table. I mean, it's very respectful over there towards your teachers. Over here, I am a teacher, and it was difficult when I first came to Henderson because everyone, like Chad said, oh, go and talk to your teacher if you had a problem. In India, I would never do that. Never. I would never go and actually talk to my teacher and tell him, hey, I'm having an issue with this, can you help me out? No. Because teachers are at a way higher level over here. And I am a teacher, and I used to teach 3rd grade. And there's just that level of respect that the students not fail to have, but they it's missing a little bit over here about that respect that they have for their teachers and an educator. Because it took me a whole semester to actually get up the guts to go and talk to my professors and tell them that I'm having a problem with one of their classes. Thank you.
Any more questions? Keep them coming. We have time.
I want to say there's a good documentary that just won the Oscars. It's from Pakistan called Saving Face. It's really not.
Sharmeen Abed.
Yes. And it's about acid victims in Pakistan, which is a huge also problem in India, where women get acid thrown on their faces. I see that I've seen that happen in Bombay, in big cities, and it's a huge problem. And I think it's going to be a huge awakener, because this is the first documentary on these acid victims in India and burning. They love to burn women in India, especially if they don't comply in the household, if they don't have sons. And this happens even in the cities. Like when I was in Bombay, and when I would, even though we wore Western clothes, I made sure that I covered up. I didn't wear anything too short or too revealing, just because there's a lot of eve teasing over here. And that's one thing I love about America, is that I can wear the shortest of shorts and go to Walmart, and no one's gonna eve tease me, or no man is going to eve tease me or say anything that's going to be derogatory towards me. But in India, I would never do that, because it's not because I cannot do it and it's not accepted in my culture. It's just that it's there, and the men think that they can do it. And so, heads up, if any of the girls are going to India, don't wear anything too revealing. I mean, it's not because we don't wear it. It's just that, just to save you from the eve teasing.
I think you have to be modest when you go to another
exactly.
country.
And even when I was in school and when I was in college, there was a certain dress code that I couldn't wear anything sleeveless to class. And there again comes the respect for your teachers, is that you don't wear anything that was disrespectful. Like we dressed up in traditional Indian salwar kameez, which is like the pant and the long dress.
Guys, don't panic. We have a wonderful country.
Yes, I was just about to say
that we are discussing. I mean, again, in United States, there are issues, people get raped and women, battered. We all have issues. The thing is how we can resolve these issues. And
yes, and this is not to scare you away from India or Pakistan. Please go and visit. We could really use the tourism, but we do have a lot to offer, a lot of culture, a lot. It's just this is just to make you aware of what a lot of women are facing, and these are the harsh realities. Like when people go to visit, they don't usually go, they visit the big cities, the Taj Mahal and the Dharamsala, Rajasthan, and they don't really visit the villages and see women. And this is just to make you aware of it, not to scare you from my beautiful country, I promise you. Go visit.
Life in United States, I think, is more mechanical. than spiritual. We lack that. So when I go back home, I feel spiritually very, very strong, because you see sacrifice emotionally. People are very hospitable towards each other. They will sacrifice their own time for you, you know, and we don't see here. So it's very mechanical life. If you want to grow, you want to become something, I think United States is the best country to live in, to have your mark. Oh, I would like to do a PhD, or I want to become a businessman, or I would like to be a businesswoman. This is the country. But if you want to grow spiritually, I'm sure you all know the story of a Buddha when he lived as a prince in his family, in his palace. You know, he knew nothing. The day he left his palace and he saw sickness and disease and death, that's when there was an awakening. So spiritually, if you have to grow, you have to live in India, you have to live in Pakistan, you have to live in Nepal, and you have to live in Rwanda, and you have to live in other countries like this. But if you, again, if you want to have a mechanical life, you want to grow up, then I think so this is the right place. All the Western countries are for those.
Question right over there.
Sorry, I was just wondering, do you see problems for women here that we don't seem to be aware of, that we just tend to accept, or problems that parallel the problems in your own country that we just dismiss?
Could you repeat that question again?
Can you say that again, dear?
The first part.
Do you see problems for women in our country that we don't acknowledge or seem to realize are there, or problems that parallel the problems for women in your own countries that we don't acknowledge?
Yes. As Ghazlanti was saying, we do, you know, the problems with women and destitute women, battered women, raped women, it's the same in this country and in our country. It's just how they are not treated, but how the situation is dealt with within the two countries. But I mean, it's the same. It's pretty prevalent, the problems with women. It's just on a different cultural scale altogether. Like, I mean, you may think that it's like back home, like just talking about the things that happen in India, we see it all the time, and we just accept it as part of our culture, even though we do rebel and say something. Over here, women have the equality is already set up over here, and it has some form of base over here, whereas in our country it is still getting there. It's in the process of getting there.
Experimental, sort of?
Excuse me?
Sort of experimental?
Oh no, it's not experimental. I mean, it's there. It just needs to get to that level. It's growing, I would say. But over here, there's already some form of quality that has already been set up by the government, by the institution, by the tradition, by society, that you don't face you don't face over here that we do face back home in India. It's just the small little things.
Lauren, I think that our governments are so corrupt. I think we need a nice structure in our country. You know, if we have a structure, we would not see these issues. Yeah, I mean, it's just so much.
And there's a lot of help from the government also over here about women's issues, and there's a huge voice with women's issues over here. Like as I said, in India, just quite recently, we just had only 1/3 of our seats reserved for women, which is a small amount compared to over here, but it's something, and that's what I'm saying. It is still growing. But I mean, if you look at just some of the basic problems that women have in America, I mean, it does parallel. But over here, the women can just, leave their husbands and get a divorce easily, as, Ghazlanti was saying. It's not that easy in India. It's not socially accepted in India, but it's getting there. So we're in the process. We're in the right direction.
As Lauren say, what I can say, it's a process. A few years ago, women have a very small representation in the parliament, in the government, which there was nobody to raise their voice and talk about their issues. They were left out in all aspects, but these days we have those women who are in politics who knows about how those women in the village live? Who knows about how they are being violated, their rights are being violated, and they could contribute voting for those laws which will fight for those women. So I think it's getting better. Raping rate, violence are being reduced due to those women trying to stand for what they believe and standing for expressing themselves and asking for their rights, I think. So.
Any other questions?
Okay, if there are not any more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. I'd like to thank our panel. We really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming. Thanks to the Women's History Organization for putting this together. And thanks for coming. Have a good night.
Nach mi sachlene